Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of J1Q Just One Question. That podcast that's dedicated to bringing you information, education, and focusing on resources to help you grow, scale your business, your life, wherever you are at. And today we're going to be talking with someone who's very important in my life. And full disclosure, this is a family member, but still, hey, we're going to make sure we bring you what you need. We're going to be talking about grief, mental health issues, and also making plans for life expectancy, right? We need to have those conversations in our black and brown communities and not be afraid of them. So, without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's give a big round of applause for our guest coming up, Dr. LaShonda Lennon. Yes. Hello. I know, right? I
Hey,
know, right?
cousin.
Pumped
Yes.
you up just
So,
now. You're like, man, he's good. So,
listen, I already knew that because I do listen to your podcast. I do want to say that I love it, I do enjoy it, and I share it. And so I do believe the same thing. So,
all right. See, I'm checks in the
yes,
mail for saying that. Checks in the mail. So,
checks in the mail.
so before we begin, though, I want you to do me a favor for our listeners who don't know you, don't know a little bit about you. I want you to just take a few, moments to just introduce yourself, let them know who you are, why they need to listen to you, and just all around great person. So the floor is now yours.
Okay, so great question. So I am Dr. LaShonda Lennon, and I am a licensed social worker in the state of South Carolina and North Carolina. I provide individual, family, as well as marital counseling for a variety of groups. A lot of the specialty areas that I do focus on are children and family needs, like conflicts, family discord. But more recently, I have been focusing a lot on grief, death, and dying. I have been I would say, for lack of a better word, kind of called to have these kind of very important conversations about grief, anxiety, and how it impacts children and family. And I'm a
Love it,
mom and a
love it.
wife and all those other things. Yeah.
There we go. I love that. And I love the way you put that because it's one of the things that I've been really focusing in on and talking in my podcast
Mm.
about, right? Is that people we get so bogged down in society of
Mm.
what we do as who we are. We
Right.
conflate both of those when people say, "So what do you do?" Well, I work and
Right.
do this and it's like that's not what I asked you. I Tell me who
That's not what I
you
asked you. Right.
are. Yeah, right? So I love that. So
Right.
let's
Mom,
get
writer,
into
author, speaker. Yeah.
yeah, right. Let's get into grief because I think this is an important subject. We're going to dive right into it because in the black culture, the black community, and I'm speaking from my point of view, everyone's is different, of course, but that's something like we're so afraid of. We're afraid to say, "Hey, I'm going to
Yeah.
die, and here's what I need you
Mm-hmm.
to do once it happens." What are your thoughts on that?
Mm-hmm. Um, I think that it's extremely important when we think about death and dying, right? It includes tons of things like physiological stress, separation anxiety, confusion, learning. You may dwell on the past, apprehensions about planning for death and dying. When I talk with my families and talk with children, especially married couples, about death and dying and estate planning, I talk about the big picture. You know, who's going to take care of your kids? Who's going to take care of the dog or the cat? Or, when you do pass away, what does that look like? What do you want? I know for my own self, it's a conversation that I had with my husband prior to us even being married. We are a blended family, and that was one of the conversations that I had with him from the beginning. Do not bury me. Don't fall out over me. Don't cry over me. Don't have these long drawn out concerns, moments about me. That's not what's necessary. Like, I have a very strategic plan that I have already drafted up. My husband knows exactly where it's at. It's in our safe. Insurance is paid for. You don't even have to worry about cremating me because it's already paid for, and down to the people who are going to cremate
There
me.
you go,
So,
right? I know that's right. I've had that same conversation with my wife, and
right.
it's one of the things she always still tells me. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to talk
I
about
don't
it.
want to.
No, we need
Yep.
to because
We have
it's
to.
crazy. Even
Hmm.
funerals nowadays are almost up in the upwards of $10,000 for
That's a
what?
minimum.
How
For
about you
what?
go and just get a pine box like they did in the old
That's
days?
it. That's
Uh,
it.
and and even to the point, like you said though, like even if I'm incapacitated in the hospital, she knows
Hmm.
I don't want a DNR. If there's
Hmm.
no way for me to come back, don't leave me on there. I
That's
tell her,
it.
donate my body to science. No good
Amen.
than you spending no money, you know, whatever. And I love that.
Yep.
And with that though, I think also something that comes into play is, like you said, the grief of family members once something like that happens, right? To try to prepare
Right.
them, like, okay, it's, I understand you gotta go through your emotions and your stages, but I don't want you to be um, so down that you don't continue with life, right? I would tell my wife often, look, you got a 6 month minimum before you can start dating again. If you do, I'm haunting you. 6 months and then you're okay. so,
Right, right, right.
so if you got a family member out there listening to this right now, and they may be even in a point where they're going through something like this, and they got a family member they're
Um,
caring for, what are some tips or something you want to throw to them to prepare them, uh,
right.
or resources they can even look into to help them through that
Mhm.
process?
I think that's a good point, but let me be clear. My husband is not allowed to remarry. I am the beginning, the end, and the best thing he will ever have. So he is not allowed to remarry. I let him know that once I have gone on to glory, I'm gonna need you to mourn me. Just stand over my grave and just cry. But no, seriously. So when we think about those stages of grief, and we think about how our families mourn, or how we mourn whenever we have the loss of things. Now, let me be clear. I do want to also note that when we think about grief, it doesn't have to be something that you're actively doing, right? It doesn't have to be, oh, I'm crying every day. That's not always grief. For some people, grief may be how you feel in the inside, how your body feels. You're aching, rather you're having these thoughts of just disappointment because someone lived, you know, you're living and the person has passed on. When we think about grief and we're experiencing it, uh, the bell, when we're experiencing it, it looks different for every person. And so some of the things that I do explain to children and families as well as couples is that even though the stages of grief may look different for you, while you're actively experiencing it, there are things that you need to push forward and go through, right? So if you notice that your body feels achy, don't dismiss that feeling. Actually tap into it. See what's next. See how to live life differently, because oftentimes when we have someone who is close to us who has passed on, we don't know how we're going to move on. Well, essentially, you are moving on. Every time you put your feet to the ground, you're moving on. It just feels differently. And so I encourage families to always connect. Encourage spouses to always reconnect, always connect with people who are like-minded and who are able to help you get through this process. Since oftentimes it is a therapist, or it might be a group of people who have recently experienced a loss. Some of the other things that I explain is that coping looks different for everybody. For some people, it may be a season of mourning where, like in the Bible, it said, you got 40 days. And the Bible said 40 days, you're going to mourn and you're going to get over it. Well, that's not realistic, right? I believe in the word of God, but I essentially understand that our disconnect from feelings and reality looks different for every single person. And so as you're going through those phases of denial, anger, bargaining, depression, as well as maybe a phase of acceptance, the coping strategies look different for every single person, and depending on your area, resources are different. But if nothing else you take away from this, I say tap into the resources that are in your local community, because almost always there is a church nearby that's hosting something, there's a hospital nearby that's hosting something, a funeral nearby that has resources as well.
And with that, I'm gonna tell everyone who's listening, you got to be your biggest and own advocate, right? You have got to get over it, because we've got this thing in our community where it is the keep hushed, don't speak about your feelings. You're gonna be told you're not accepted if you are telling people you're hurt. No, go to a church, like she said. Go to someone that says, I don't know how to get over this. I don't know what the next steps are. Don't hold it in, because it can boil up and then
Oh yeah.
just blurts out. So
It will
reach
eat you up.
out.
I had a lady
Yeah.
recently, and I actually spoke with her before this to ask her if I can share her story. I had met with a young lady prior to this, on a church, from a church standpoint, and she came to me and she said, her son had died by suicide 5 years ago, right? And she could not figure out why she couldn't get past the anger stage, right? And so what I explained to her was some of those stages we believe that we're just supposed to get over, like, okay, check, check, check. Well, grief is very fluid. um, one day you might wake up and you are so happy, you're
Mhm.
not dwelling on the passing of that particular person, or that that longing of that person. And then the next thing you know, you're feeling depressed. You can't get out of bed. You physically are overwhelmed. And then the next day you might be angry. And then the next day you're accepting it. You're like, okay, I understand people pass away. And then you may be back down to denial. The truth about the matter is, when it comes to grief and those coping, those connected with coping strategies, we have to understand that grief is not a fluid thing where it's going from one end to the next. It absolutely is something where you may feel one feeling one time, you may feel another feeling another time. So in this particular person's case, she has been in an angry phase for many, many years. But what she didn't notice was that even in the midst of her being angry, she was having periods of acceptance. So I had to go through and show her in her life and life's experiences that she was finding moments to be happy, to be joyful, to be positive. And she didn't see that. Well, that's part of her, that angry phase was part of her coping. But essentially, her reconnecting with someone who is very familiar with grief and who doesn't have a problem with talking about it allowed her to kind of tap into what's next for her, and then help her to process what's next for her and her family.
Yeah, it is a step for everyone because I know
Hmm.
I have a big thing with for me, I don't look at death as what society has kind of told us what we should do. And I remember, and I
Yeah.
would say this, and my favorite aunt, Gail Washington, kind of helped me through this process. Whereas I didn't understand why people would take a moment to mourn and stuff. I
More.
was like, it's death. Let's go. Let's the next day going. And she's like, everyone has to go through their seasons. Some people
Yeah.
may take 6 years, 3 months. It's different, and then they may
Yeah.
revert back to it after they went a
Hmm.
while. But for me, I was just like, let's party, right? I want to party at mine, but everyone's different. So, but
Yeah.
let's
No,
move on to
listen.
go.
No, I can't skip over that, because let me be clear. So in my will, that's one of the things that I noted. No one's allowed to wear black. My favorite color is yellow. I want people to wear yellow, or bright color like an orange. I
Yeah,
want it to be a celebration. I don't want this very morbid thing. It brings to mind what made me actually so excited about having these kind of conversations was really and truly observing different cultures, right? So I have a stepbrother. My stepbrother's from Guam, and he showed me some examples, some very beautiful examples of how in their culture they dance and they sing loudly. There's trays of food, and they celebrated the life of the person, even in their passing, right? In places like New Orleans, you're gonna see them dancing in the street. You got the flags going. You have horses. You got carriages. It's this beautiful, magnificent celebration of life, even in those end phases. And then essentially there is this community that binds together around that family or persons who have lost someone. And if nothing else, that's what I want for the end of my life. And that conversation had to be relayed, but everybody's not that way. And so as I teach people and I work with people and I have groups that, we have conversations that are very difficult, I just explain to people that as you go through these phases and stages, it looks different for everyone. And it's okay to not be in the same place as the person next to you, even if it is your spouse.
that's right. It's
Mhm.
okay to not be okay. Is my little thing for my
Mhm.
mental health podcast,
That's it.
and that's what we're jumping into right now. Mental health matters, right? This is the
Yes, every
subject
day.
that it's to my core of my heart because,
Yeah.
and I'm speaking to it from a black male's perspective. We
Right.
have to change the mindset of telling our young black boys and kids, women as well, young black girls, but men
But you're
mostly,
right.
right, boys, you can't be tough. You can't
Mhm.
express feelings. If you cry, you're weak because then
Right.
we're tearing out. So this is my little phrase, and I'm gonna get your take on this. I've heard for years we've got to break generational curses.
Yeah.
My take on that is we don't have a curse. No one put Eye of Newt and Fig's toe inside a bowl and put a spell on us, right? It's
Right. But
generational.
hopefully not. Please, we
Yeah,
are
right.
from Charleston now. I don't know now.
It's generational choices. But
Right,
at the same time, I couldn't be too mad at my family lineage because they were just teaching me what they were taught. It wasn't like they
right.
knew right from wrong. They, my great great grandparents, and it was just passed down. But we can
Hmm.
make a choice to, like, for my son, if he gets hurt, I tell him, "Hey, come express to me. What are you going through right
Right.
now? Tell me your
Use your
feelings." I
words.
don't. Yeah, I don't want him to say, "No, I gotta be tough and stuff." So, what are some things that you want to tell the listeners or people who you deal with about mental health in that kind of way?
I like the way you put that. I think one of the things that is so important to me as it pertains to mental health, and then especially in the Black and Brown community, is that generational trauma. So I don't call it a curse, but I do say it is trauma. It is traumatic. I'll give an example of. When oddly enough, I actually talked about this subject as well. When I was teaching at Parent University recently, and one of the grandmothers, she was raising her daughter's children, and her son is incarcerated. The daughter is addicted to substances, and she goes around and she does these public speaking events where she's explaining to people the impact of this on her family, right? These traumatic events on her family. And one of the things that was extremely important to me, and it touched me just to hear her speak, as well as whenever I talk with other parents who have experienced different traumatic events like this, is that we have to make a effort to change our mindset. We have to make a conscious effort every single day to not only change the way that we do things, but understand that if it's not working, it's okay to change it. I'll give you one example from my own personal life. So I have a blended family. I have two daughters and a son. And when my husband and I got married, my husband was like, "Oh nope, we cut butt around here, okay? Because that's how that's what it is. That's how he was raised. He's from Charleston too. And not saying that all people from Charleston cut butt, but I'm just saying that's the kind of life that I grew up in, okay? And so my husband's like, "Hey, that is how we enforce discipline here." Well, then he and I met, and I said, "I don't cut butt. Is that a deal breaker?" And for me, that was an era of trauma. So I the stats prove it. It takes at least three generations to change a behavior, a pattern, to change to change the impact of an overall family. So when I met my husband, I said, "Listen, I'm already one generation, and I'm raising a second. So what I ain't gonna do is have her have a third, and she's still not learned." And so some of those things we don't do. I don't spank my kids. So even though he used to spank his kids, he don't spank our kids now, if that makes sense. And so some of those things, when we think about trauma and we think about generations and the impact from, Big Mama to now, Big Mama even look different. So the way that we respond to our kids has to be different because of nothing else. They have to learn to use their words. They have to learn to express themselves. They have to learn to be able to have those kind of very frank conversations, because the world is not going to read their minds, and the world is not going to be forgiving of their feelings or things that they experience.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if I told y'all y'all should have had y'all notepads and writing some of this down, but you got a chance to go get it right now because this is the stuff that I'm loving this because yes, like it's almost like that 21-day habit thing you hear, right? Three
Yep.
generations to
Yep.
change it. And I love that.
Hmm.
And everyone who knows I am like that too because I've only spanked my son twice and he's about to be 9 on February 13th, so in
And I bet
almost
you can
8
tell me
years.
exactly what the two incidents were.
Yep, yep. And it's because I made that conscious choice to say, hey, you know what, we're gonna work for things different. Even to the point now
Hmm.
where he comes home from school, he's like, okay, Dad, the teacher had to talk to me today. I say,
Yep.
okay, let's work through it and find out why.
Hmm.
But I don't get on him when he tells me that because then he'll become afraid to tell me
Yep.
something if I react in that kind
Absolutely.
of way. So it is
Hmm.
that breaking of that tradition and that trauma, and I'm loving that because that mental health. I was talking with someone on a podcast before, and I was like, we as Black people and brown people, we go through things PTSD as kids, and we don't even know it, and then the world
Yep.
hits us with things, and so now we our mental health is
So
so
imagine being traumatized by your family and the media.
Yeah.
your family and the school you attend, your family and what you watch on the news.
Mm.
You
Every
know, we don't
day.
have a choice every day.
Yeah. And we don't notice that stuff because we get so accustomed in it that we are
Yeah.
it's our part of our life, right? It's just, oh, it's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
One person asked me one time, they said, why do you keep speaking on these kind of issues and stuff? And it's not going to change anything in the world. And I said, even if it doesn't, I don't want it to change me. I speak on it because I don't want to get numb to it. Oh, there was another
Yep.
killing. Oh, there was another beating. Oh, there's another shooting. This is
Yep.
how the world goes. No, I want to be able to say, let's find some way to focus. Are we going to be able to take everything away? No, but we've got to
No.
start working on it and changing it. I'm loving it. All right, next,
Absolutely.
next, planning for life expectancy. Right? I know we touched
Hmm.
dabbled into it, but let's get into a little bit more specifics because you spoke on how you have your will, and I
Hmm.
know black and brown people are so afraid to say, "Here's my will. I don't
Here's my
have
will.
anything," but then they fight
Here's my insurance.
afterwards. Big Mama wanted us
Ooh.
to have this, and she wanted, or he wanted. So, what are your thoughts on that? Let me hear it. I know you got it.
Listen, listen. This is near to me. I I had my great grandmother on my dad's side passed away. Left plenty land, plenty money. The way that people tussled over it was mind boggling. And I remember being a young person at the time. I was probably 10 or something. And then as I got older, I watched the way that people around me kind of argued over property and things like that. I never wanted to be one of those people. I'm talking down to your bank account needs to have who this goes to. Um, there's nothing wrong with having a state. I remember I spoke with a family recently and I explained to them, I said, you know, it is okay to put things in. The lady said, well, I don't have nothing. I don't have nothing. All I got is, you know, this, that, and the third. And I said, let me tell you something. You don't believe it's something, but when you leave this world, somebody next to you wants it, even if it's just a ring that you've had for years, or a bracelet that you always wore. You know, I have two watches that my grandmother, who passed some years back, probably 6 years ago now, I still have a watch from her and a bracelet from her and her wedding ring. I had to pry it off of my dad, and it was something that was left to me in a will. Like, it just baffles me. And so when I think about estate planning, when I think about planning, I tell people, be intentional. By no means, don't have your family out here paying for your debt. Don't have your family out here fish frying and doing GoFundMe's. Put your money to the side. It will cost you $5, $6 a month to pay off on a funeral. It will cost you a little bit of nothing to really put some money aside so that when you leave this earth, if nothing else, you're leaving behind an insurance policy for your children, your family, your grandkids, so on and so forth. If you have a home, put it in, put that thing, go through, make sure that estate is set up, make sure that your will doesn't leave that part out, because essentially if you don't, the city will own it, the county will own it, they will auction off your home. Your family will be sitting in probate for a year and there's nothing you could do about it. So when I think about estate planning and I think about planning for our death, it is not a morbid thing. It is love for the people that you say that you love. If I love my biological firstborn child and I love my two bonus kids, I'm gonna plan for them. Don't get me wrong, I love my husband now, but I'm planning for my babies. And if I love them like I say I love them, I'm not going to have them mourning me and planning for my past going services, for my homegoing services. No, I want them to pull that will out and say, okay, well, mama wanted A, B, C, D, E, F, G. It's already taken care of. It's already squared away. Let's just go ahead and secure the pasta and let's move on. That gives them the ability and the safety to actually mourn without having to think about, how am I going to pay for this? How am I going to get these things done? How are we going to be able to accomplish these things that need to get done?
And is no shame, ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening to this here. If you've got that situation, you've got multiple kids or whatever, there's no shame in putting in your will that you
It,
leaving A to this one because they're your favorite. Look, you're
well,
gone.
don't
They
put
can be
favorite
mad.
now. Don't do that.
Say, I'm leaving everything to you, Carol, because you're my favorite. Hey, you're
You were
gone. They're
my
not gonna
favorite.
be mad at you. So now, this also, ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you, this applies to your businesses as well because you guys
Yeah.
know I speak about business the same way. Even if
Yep.
you have a little small store that you
That's
just
it.
sell clothes, because my grandparents were that way. When they passed in their little store, there was left to nothing. Right? You
Live to
have to
nothing.
plan out for everything. And man, this is
Hmm.
listen. You can't be afraid because then it's going to cause more turmoil in your
Turmoil.
family's life. Right? They're mourning over you, like you said, but then now they're fighting as well. So we got a
Yep.
whole host of mix of emotions. So, all
Yeah.
right,
And they
let's
don't.
get into the.
And
Oh, go ahead.
look, I will say this, and if nothing else, when I hear people say, "I love my kids, I love my husband, I love my aunts or whomever it is," show them love by planning. You plan vacations, you plan
Yeah.
getaways, you plan dinner, you plan, a birthday party. I'm turning 40. I'm gonna plan this huge 40th birthday party. Take that time to go to South Carolina or North Carolina or whatever state you're in, legal aid, and legal aid is free.
Mm.
Legal, there is in every single place you live, they have a legal aid that is free and that will allow you the opportunity to receive free legal services. And so receive those free legal services and then go ahead and fulfill that goal for your family.
Love it, love it. Yes, do that, ladies and gentlemen. And now we're going to talk about a method that you have out there that can help people who may be saying to themselves, I don't know what to do. I'm lost." Well, we've got a book, we've got a journal, so let's jump into this and talk about this book a little bit. Tell the listeners about this, and for the viewers who are going to be able to
Yes.
see this, I'm going to put it up on
Okay.
screen. And also, if you're new to listening, we do have this on video as well that you'll be able to go to the YouTube page and watch it. It's at Black Negus, BLKNEGUS. Let's jump into it, and the floor is yours.
Okay, yes. Okay, so let's make sure I'm point. Nope. See, I still pointed to the wrong side. Okay, there we go. So I actually published a book. It is Envisioning the Glow Up. It is a bullet journal, and the reason why this is so important to me, and I actually have a men's journal coming out. It's really excited about that. A good friend of mine who's an artist, an amazing artist, she is actually doing the artwork for me. Her name is Dana Brown. So a little plug for her because I know she does listen. Another Charlestonian. I keep it local. And so part of the reason why this is so important to me is because this book allows for you some very detailed goal setting. When you're thinking to yourself, what does my day look like? How do I feel? How am I checking in on myself? If I'm having a difficult time, how am I planning in between one activity or another? This journal is what this is for. Oftentimes, people and I will throw myself in the bucket. I have ADHD, and so my mind will race all around the world, and I'll forget what I'm supposed to be doing. And this journal allows you the opportunity to have those scattered thoughts, but then also remain on task. It is set up to guide your brain in a particular way. And so that's part of the reason why it was so important to me to create a bullet journal. I was already doing this with my clients. I was utilizing this platform and just kind of writing it out for my clients. I would print out these little pages. And then one day I had a friend say, why don't you print this and then give it to other people? And I was like, no one's really going to want a journal because there's like 1,000 journals out there. But I always remember what someone said to me a long time ago. There's a ton of loaf of breads out there. Rather is the Food Lion brand or the whatever name brand. And at the end of the day, someone's going to buy the loaf because it's on the shelf. So this book is on the shelf. It is purchased at Amazon, or you can find the link at thecreativehealing.com. And I'm super proud of it because I do believe that it is a simple guide to maneuvering through life.
Yeah, and I can be one to attest to you. And I'm not saying this because it's a family member, but we purchased it. My wife absolutely loves it. She's been on
And I'm
this
so
journey of
appreciative.
journaling.
Thank you.
Yeah, and it's been helping her
Hmm.
because now she's expressing herself a lot more, and we're working towards that. And it's such a great thing. And I did not know you had ADHD. I have never been tested. but I think I have it. I think I have it
Okay, listen,
because listen,
listen.
for those everyone, my listeners know, and I don't know if you know this, but this is the
Yes,
background for
that's
my
right. You better
son's
advertise.
um, his
I
podcast
love
that we do.
it.
We do a podcast together as well,
Mm-hmm.
and ADHD is my superpower. I'm pretty sure I got it because my brain is scattered. So I'm gonna
Yes.
just start saying it,
Listen.
even though I've never been tested for it. So, but
I can
yeah,
send some cue points to you. What I will
oh,
say is that when it comes to ADHD, especially as an adult, it's so hard to decipher, especially in women versus men. If you've ever experienced trauma, PTSD, if you've ever experienced anxiety or some type of depressive disorder, it's so hard to kind of disseminate whether your brain is having these, traumatic events, or whether your brain is going through this anxious episode or depressive episode, or if it's adult ADHD. And adult ADHD really and truly looks different for everybody. And so, for my own self, I have to be very intentional about utilizing tools that will keep me on task, keep me on schedule, and if nothing else, that will encourage me and motivate me. And I really do appreciate you advocating for my book, because that was one of the things that was so important to me. It has, quotes, and it has just guidelines and just encouraging things, so that every single page is different, and it has coloring, because if you can't tell, well, on your YouTubers be able to tell. And from your background, I do a lot of art therapy with my clients, and I find that it allows for a dumping ground for your brain, even if you're not good at it. And so, if nothing else, I always just look for ways in order to allow that traumatic brain or that ADHD brain to have a place to put energy.
yeah, I know because no matter what I'm doing something, and my wife always tell me I'm that person. I'll be doing something to go, ooh, squirrel. It is. She's like, no, get back. Let's finish this.
Get
So
back,
I
get back.
definitely feel like I got
Right.
it, and I've been being intentional of like, no, do this, and little
Right.
small things like I have, for example, I have a little timer here. Oh, I
I
should
love
tell
it.
anyone to get this right, but this is so cool because all you do is you turn it,
Love it.
and then it takes the time to what you need to do, right? So I'm giving
Yeah.
myself
So
a
so you're
task
gonna send
5
me that link,
minutes.
right?
Yes, I was saying, hey, listen, I got affiliate stuff coming out, man.
I
And
love
speaking
it.
of that
That's
really
you.
quick too,
Listen, that is huge. You need an affiliate page, because then people can
yes,
shop your Amazon page. It will benefit and support your business, but then it will
yes,
allow us
we
great
putting it
merchandise.
out there. My wife just created one last night. Listen, if you don't
Nice.
got a side hustle, if you out there listeners, if you don't got something to, you
You
need
got
to
to.
do it, get an
Eggs is
LLC.
$10. You got to get a side hustle.
Yes, and I just got accepted with uh Ink File. I haven't put it out there yet,
Nice.
but Ink File, I think they're the LLC to get their business thing. So, but anyways,
Yes.
I'll put
Yeah.
that out there.
Congratulations.
Hey, and listeners, get rid of the crab in the bucket mentality. Support each
Yeah.
other, even if you can't do
Yeah.
it directly financially.
Agreed.
Share, tell other people about it. Tell them to listen to
Mm,
yours, right? Because we've
yeah.
got to learn to grow with each other, and that's the only one of the best ways, whether to help
I
people
tell
out. So
people
I got a
sharing is free.
yes. So we got a new segment. I want to ask you really quick, and we're gonna get ready to
Oh,
let you
tell
go.
me.
And this segment is brought to you by Reflections of You, where we let your reflections become your beauty. And this segment is called "You Better Mind Your Business." So,
Okay. All right.
and what it is basically just I ask my guests to give maybe one or two tips out there for any of our listeners to help
Okay.
them who may be thinking about working on their own business or starting in a career field such as yours or
Yes.
any other thing. Just maybe one or two tips to get them started. Mind your business.
Mind your business. I think that's a great question. Let me say this, and then I hope that you take this as a snippet. Let me be clear. I didn't grow up in a family that had a lot of entrepreneurs, and so I really am. I'm learning, right? So I opened up a private practice. I do public speaking. I do a lot of direct client work, and it has been a learning curve. Even little things about, what licenses for this state or for that state, or what LLC you need for this one, but you need something different for that state. So if I had to give someone else advice, to be a therapist or to be a social worker, I would tell them, no matter what state you're in, ensure that you are getting a degree Unlike the people in Florida, like the nurses, I need you to get a real degree and make sure that you complete your licensure. Because no matter where you go, that license, that piece of paper matters because then it shows that you have done the work. That's the first thing. And then the second thing is surround yourself by other people that are doing similar things because if nothing else, you're able to model your business and find out if you have, if you're, you're covering a gap area. Something that was extremely important to me is that um, I wanted to make sure that I was providing a service for the community that I provide, that I live in, that is not available in my community, right? So this is a gap, an area where people didn't have any services, and so that was extremely important to me. And so that was an area of business that I make sure that I tap into because believe it or not, that's where the money resides. And money aside, that's where my passion resides. So if nothing else, I would definitely say make sure your license is squared away, your ducks are in a row when it comes to that, and then be around other like-minded business people so that you can fill in the gap in areas that are not being tapped into.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Some quick little tidbits for you out there who may be interested in
Magic.
learning about that career field, or maybe have a
Yeah.
family member passing it along. Right? I always tell you, I don't care if it's a million people listening. If it helps one person, that's where we're at.
Mm.
And my little quick point of advice that I always give towards the end of my episodes, what I'm starting to do now, is never deprive someone of hope. It may be
Mm.
the only thing that they have. Right? Don't crush somebody
Right.
else's dream. Don't blow out their candle because you may not believe in it. Because those things sometimes are the only things we have. So, any parting
Right.
words you want to say to the listeners? Where can they find you on social media? Anything like that?
Okay.
It is your.
Well, to toggle on what you just said, I agree. Don't blow out someone else's candle. Always encourage someone light their candle every chance you get because I'll be honest, you never know how it's going to make someone's day. I always think about the fact that I was the first person in my family to get a master's degree. I was the second person to get a bachelor's degree, and I was the first person to get a doctorate degree. I was I think I'm the only therapist in the family. And so either it means I'm really crazy or I really love kids and families. But whatever the case may be, it was something that was extremely important to me to change the way that I viewed things and then change the way that my kids and my family viewed things. And so that was extremely important to me. And if nothing else, I love that concept of just encouraging others because it is totally different than what the people around me do. And so I definitely hope that even if you're doing something that is extremely odd, like talking about death and dying on a podcast. I hope that you tap into it and you do it and you give it a try, even if it's something that comes hard. Because trust and believe me, school was not easy for me, not even a little bit. I would say in regards to finding me, I am Dr. Lesha on most platforms, but I would just tell you to find me as thecreativehealing.com, and all of my social media and platforms are under The Creative Healing. I'm I'm so honored to be here and I really appreciate it. And I do listen to your podcast on Apple. So if you have Apple, please check out the podcast because I'll be honest, my cousin definitely,
Yes.
he has some great
We're
topics.
gonna promote it everywhere to the world and get a billboard
So
and
you
put it out
got
there.
to,
So yeah,
yeah.
and what's funny is when you were saying that, I was talking, and it kind of made me thinking. I share it in some points, and I don't share it too often. But only a few people know in our family.
Mm,
Quetta Denise, I got to remember.
okay.
It's so crazy. Is coming up, I I still didn't
We
know
all had
some
nicknames.
of the names of my family members. I just knew them by the names we called them. I was like, "Who is
Right,
that?"
right, right, right.
They're like, "Angie, who is that? Patrick." Oh,
Who?
okay. So,
Right, right, right.
yeah. So Denise, Quetta knew,
Right,
Gail,
right.
Annie knew for sure, and then oh, I always used to get these two. Ashley, I think it's Ashley.
Yes, yes.
I
Shaquana.
think it's
Okay.
Ashley. Yeah, Shaquana. So, um, Annie told me that I was the first millionaire in our family. Most of our
Right,
families don't know that, and of course I don't tell
right.
them that. But I
That's
yes.
right.
So officially, and now my listeners know. So I have a a clothing line that I'm bringing out now, and no, I don't want to
Bring
say
it
I don't
back
want to say
out
yet.
because you've been doing this for a while now. Don't try
Yeah,
to minimize it. Don't.
and listen, I'm so close, so close. There's some red
Okay.
tape I got to cut through. I got one rejection, and I'm doing an appeal now. But I'm so
Okay.
close that my clothing line is actually going to be in Walmart. So close,
Nice.
but we're not there yet. So I don't want to put too much jinx on that. But yeah,
No, there's
but
no
I
such thing as
in my clothing line, I've got a line that's called Broke Millionaire. And I say that because most people hear millionaire and they automatically think my bank account is this. No, I'm a broke millionaire. I got it through assets. I started in real
That's
estate,
right.
and then so my assets have amassed to $1 million in the
Right.
rental properties and stuff that we own. So
Hmm.
officially, I can call myself a millionaire. But let's don't come ask me for no
Nice.
money, because look,
Because I'm broke.
yes, right. I'm a broke millionaire. That's why our
Bro,
clothing
right.
line says that. So, and
But
this has been
that's
so wonderful.
important. That's so
Yeah,
awesome. I listen, you have always been encouraging, and I'm always so proud of all the things that you're doing. The truth about the matter is, you, like many of us, have always taken the opportunity to step off the cliff and do something a little different and dare to be different. I think that when we do that, we're encouraging those around us, and we're inspiring those who are nervous, or are
yeah,
scared to do things. And, risk is what we're supposed to do. I'm a firm believer, even if you're not a religious person, that, God desires for us to use our talents to share with the world. And this is the way that we share it.
yeah. You've got to, and yeah, you're right. 'Cause when you mention our family's entrepreneurs, and you know what's
Yeah.
funny too is that I say when I tell people, I was like, my family has like a strong backbone of women
Yep.
entrepreneurs, black women, because that's who I grew up and all I was able to basically see. I think I had
Yep.
one uncle, and he's where he's at, but strong women. I'm like, yo, that's what pushed me to get there.
Yeah.
And I don't always directly expect my family to support my ventures because I have a high taste for stuff. Like my liquor line, my whiskey line, people don't
You
know
better
about it.
do it.
That's like $200 a bottle, right? So I
It
don't expect
is.
family
I
members
did
to
buy
go.
one. I bought one, just one, because
So,
therapy
but
don't pay me a lot of. It's good
yeah, so but that was a venture and it was crazy. I don't drink alcohol. I don't. But people are like, why'd you do it? I was like, because I can. Right? No one told me I
because I
couldn't.
can.
I wanted something
That's it.
different, and I wanted to
That's
learn
it.
and stuff like that. So, anyways, we're gonna get off because I know you got some things to do, and we've been really running. So, but stick with me for 1 second. I'm just gonna do my
Okay.
outro, and then I'm gonna be right back with you. Okay? So, one
Sounds
second. Thank you
good.
so much. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for sticking with us through this episode of Just One Question. The podcast, again, is dedicated to bringing you this information and resources out there. In this course, we want to keep telling you to keep pushing, and we want to let everyone know that we appreciate you and just keep doing what you're doing, right? And this episode, of course, is being brought to you by Hustle 1977. For those who grind, you deserve to relax. Why not relax with a glass of smooth tasting Hustle brand whiskey? And as I always say, please keep living while you are alive.
Thank you for listening to Just One Question. I know you enjoyed the show because you made it this far. If you want to hear more, subscribe, share, and don't forget to give us a 5-star review. Now, what's your one question?